Introduction. In the world of alphas with power to control minds, hand out excruciating pain, and even seduce you to your death, such that you die with a smile on your face. Yinju was born an Omega, a slave without any magic. In Bloodlock, being an Omega meant that you were no better than a rug under the feet of the alphas. In fact, even Rug had much more importance than Yinju, who was born as an Omega. Her life was destined to be spent under the dominance of the alphas of the Situ family. At least no one knew that she was an Omega. As long as no one found out that she was an Omega, she was safe. But at the age of 18, she was dragged to the Situ mansion because of a mistake, and now she have to serve in the family of vampires. But it was fine, right? As long as she stayed away from them, she will be all right. Wrong. She ended up attracting the attention of the three young masters, even when she didn't meant to. One by one, their gazes locked on her, in a manner she did not mean to, by disrespecting them. Proud and arrogant as they were, they didn't want to let her go so easily. Now she have to serve them and protect herself as well. For if these men found out that she was an Omega, it was either death or a life of imprisonment. "Did you go somewhere?" spoke a voice in the dark room, causing Yinju's eyes to go wide with fear. She turned around the room when another voice called from behind, the cold breath of the man skimming over her shoulder. "I think she was out in the garden. Her skin is cold." Nervously, Yinju turned around, but the man behind her was gone. She swallowed hard as she squinted her eyes, trying to make the silhouettes of the men who were hiding in her room. "What are we doing in her room?" she asks, chuckled a third voice, causing goosebumps to break all over her skin. When the figure of the man sitting on the chair next to the tea table stood up and started walking towards her. As he started to walk towards her, the rest moved and circled her like a prey, the handsome features of the men illuminated in the moonlight, making them look even scarier than they do. "We came to see our Omega," said Number 1 as he tilted his head and smiled at her. "What about you?" "Where are you coming from? I just went out on a walk," she replied as quickly as possible, but then she heard someone behind her chuckle, and Yinju could feel her doom coming close. She tried to sidestep the two men, but then she was caught by Number 3, his arms tightening around her waist as she tried to escape the two men, a dangerous growl rumbling in his chest that reverberated on her back. The two men walked closer to her as the first one raised his hand and cupped her face while the other caught hold of her silvery lock that was cascading over her shoulder. One of them skimmed his hand over her jaw and neck before splaying his fingers over her chest. "Your heart is thumping rather loud. Did you go on a run?" Yinju didn't answer, for she knew that the three men knew she was lying. They could see through her lies better than she could see through their games. The man behind her leaned forward and whispered against her ear, "Were you trying to run away with him? Maybe I should wring the neck of that human after all. What do you say?" Sugar chortled the third. Chapter 1. Once upon a time there were 3 princes, and all 3 of them were bound by a curse. The eldest prince was cursed to carry a ghost on his back, the second prince couldn't feel the pain of anyone, and the third one was cursed to cry even when he was smiling. The dark shadow who cursed them stayed with them all the time, making sure they never laugh. The 3 princes were very sad. They tried everything to let go of their curses and break free from them, but they could not do it. In the end, they locked themselves in their castle, refusing to come out and see the other children who were full of life and happiness. They were richer than others, but they had no friends and no one to love. They were jealous of others who were happy and loved. Why don't we take their loved ones away? They will cry as well then. One day the crying third prince suggested. The eldest prince and the second prince, who was haunted by the dark shadow, immediately agreed. So, the 3 princes went on a killing frenzy, and they snatched the love and happiness of others. At first, it was thrilling. Then it got boring. The 3 princes were once again sad. That was until a young princess came and taught them a lesson on how to be happy at the smallest thing. The 3 princes thought that they found happiness, a beacon of light in their dark life. But then their beacon was swallowed by the darkness that haunted them, taking her away from them forever. Ouch! Yinju hissed as she dropped the pot she was holding on the floor. Rice, she only wanted to make some rice, and she never thought that it was this hard to make it. She followed the same steps as her sister. She poured the water and then left it to boil before adding the grains of rice. It was the simplest thing. Yet she somehow managed to create a mess, even while doing something so simple, curse her blessing of being a clumsy idiot. Juju, what are you doing? Her sister Yinxia rushed inside the thatched cottage. Surely she must have heard the sound of Yinju dropping the pot on the ground while washing clothes in the backyard. With her eyes trained on the floor, Yinxia took in the destruction that Yinju has created in just 10 minutes of being left alone and smacked the back of her palm on her forehead. Juju, what did I tell you about getting close to the stove? That I should leave it in the hands of an expert. Yinju answered, sounding a bit upset. All she wanted was to make lunch for her hard-working sister, who has to not only work hard in school, but even when she returned home. But she might have as well sat in a corner and left it to her sister to take care of the lunch. At least she wouldn't have to clean up after her. That's right, Yinxia sighed, as she took out the ring that she always carried in her pocket and then placed it on her ring finger before she made a swishing gesture in the air and muttered, Purgare. No sooner did she utter the spell, the broom and the trash picker jumped to work. The two of them started cleaning the rice that was spilt on the floor while her sister walked to the cabinet. She took a look at the rice container that was getting empty day by day and sighed. I have to buy rice. We are running out of it. She paused when she noticed that her sister was looking at the self-moving broom and trash picker. Her eyes softened as she placed her hands on Yinju's shoulder as she said, Don't be so broken-hearted. Not being able to do magic is not a bad thing either. In fact, it's a very good thing. This way you don't have to slave after others. What's so good about it? Yinju retorted with her lips pursed in a pout. If I was a beta, then I would have been strong enough to protect myself. You and father wouldn't have to work so hard while trying to protect me. Yinju was rather upset with her title as an omega. Her sister was a beta and so was her father, but she'd just have to take after her mother. If only she was born as a beta, then she wouldn't have to be jealous of her sister who could do magic. Even if being a beta, she had to slave away after the noble alphas, she would have very much agreed to do so. It's not as bad as you think it is. Yinxia knew that her sister hated her omega status, but this was something that was totally out of their control. In their world, status was determined the second a child took birth. If he was born with magical powers, the child was titled as beta. As for children who were born petite and beautiful, with a scent that could enamor just anyone, and no magical powers, they were declared of as omega. Without any magical powers, they were the weakest of all, and being the weakest, they were the prey of the strongest. Alphas. Alphas were not only rare, it was said that they were born with a blessing. Yinxia has never seen any alpha being born in slums. All of them took birth in noble houses and lived a comfortable life with a silver spoon in their mouth. Yinxia shook those useless thoughts from her head, and then pushed her sister on the shoulders, such that she was sitting down on the bed. At least you are not doing menial tasks, such as cleaning and laundering in a noble's house. You have no idea how hard it is to serve them, said Yinxia, trying to change her sister's mood as she told her about the day in the Bloodlock mansion where she worked. The mansion has at least 4 young masters and 3 young mistresses. Every one of them is a hard nut to serve. The eldest master likes tricking his siblings every day. Just this morning he switched the dresses of his sisters from the laundry room, causing the young missies to wear each other dresses, and you know how the young mistresses of noble families are. Yinxia rolled her eyes at the thought of what happened this morning in the mansion. All 3 of them were very angry with the mistake of the laundry room's mistake and punished every single maid working in the laundry department. Were you punished as well? Yinju asked, sounding worried as she looked at her sister in concern. No, silly. If I was punished, do you think I would be standing in front of you? Yinxia governed the trash picker, such that it poured all the rice it picked up from the floor into a bucket floor of clean water before continuing. I was able to wriggle my way out of the punishment since I was out of the mansion with Jin Yuan. At the mention of Jin Yuan, Yinju saw her sister turn red, and she happily nudged her sister in the ribs. You were on a date while others were being punished, huh? Oh, shush! Yinxia smacked Yinju lightly on the back of her hand as she said, It's nothing like that. He and I just went to get some things that the kitchen staff asked us, even though she said that the blush on her face did not reduce in the slightest. Subscribe for Chapter 2.